Hello everyone, this is Ballin with Bill here, Bill Dannenhauer at Skybox Studios. I got a very good friend with me today. I've known a long time. We go way back to when I first came to Omaha here and got done professional wrestling, and I first came here coaching at Dana College and got to really know Coach, and he's a good friend, a very good coach, one of the top coaches in my mind in the state, high school wise, Larry Martin.
You bet. Thank you for having me. My privilege, my honor, and it's been a joy to get to know you and watch all the venues that you've been able to make an impact, not only in this state, but at the collegiate level as well.
Well, I appreciate that, Coach. So let's start at the beginning. How did you become a football player, got involved, and what'd you do, where'd you go, and all that stuff?
Well, I grew up in Illinois, an old small town outside of Joliet. A lot of people maybe out in this area have heard of Joliet, and just like kids, we were had a lot going on, out playing with your buddies. When you grow up, those are they're all your best friends, and you're at the church parking lots or in the church yards. We had a big Catholic church. We used to always go over there. There was a game going on every day, whether it was softball or wiffle ball or tackle football, no flag back then, right? And basketball games and stuff like that. Yeah. And just, really relished my growing up in a small town. And just sports were a big part of me. I think it was a place that I could find a release to get all my energy and hopefully channel it in the right direction. My mother worked at the grade school, and so that was a special opportunity time to build a relationship with her. My dad, he was did not go to high school. He had to work and help support his family. His dad was blind, so just understanding all that and how that looks, but so it was a big release for me, to play sports, be competitive. I always had a little bit of a competitive streak in me, but being with Mom and then, going to school and participate in sports. I had great youth coaches, I reflect on those all the time. I'm sure we do. And then, went into high school. It was actually my junior high basketball coach got the high school head basketball job. And then there was a new head coach my sophomore year of high school that thought I was pretty good and just really started playing sports then, but just that whole camaraderie piece of being around the coaches, with my mom working at the school and being with them, just the impact that I saw that they made on kids and that they made on me. It was something that I knew early on that I wanted to be a physical education instructor. And there's not a lot of people say that they figure that out at a young age, that they want to do that and coach. And at that time, when I was younger, Billy, I didn't know exactly what sport I wanted to coach. I coached them all, even in my small hometown. I went back when I was going to junior college and coached the youth baseball, there in my hometown. And so I coached, football. Really, honestly, was probably one of the last sports that I actually ended up coaching. And then I moved to the state of Nebraska. My wife, or at the time, wasn't my fiance yet, but my wife Mari, who 29 years we've been married, and she was going out here to UNO's Med Center to school, and I came out and applied for the old pull tabs. Remember those on the dorm rooms where they would list the jobs, help wanted or whatever? Right. There was a little pull tab, that they had there. I pulled one of those, and it was a Fremont Bergen job, or they were advertising there at the dorms there. Not in the dorms, but in the campus, and just found out about the job, and then lo and behold, I got the job there in 1990 and moved out here. Actually,
you were the head coach for.
I came out here. I drove 484 miles away from home. Drove to Blair, Nebraska, where a good friend of mine was living, and I had to borrow my dad's suit. My dad's about 5'11", 6 foot, so you can see, I didn't own a suit back then, so I'm trying to hide that. But I'm in Blair, Nebraska, my buddy that played for Dana College.
No kidding.
And then I drove over to Fremont, interviewed. And they told me, it was Gary Schmidt and Randy Eichmeyer interviewed me.
Yeah.
And they said, I said, if you could, if you want to do a second interview, please let me know. If, I'd be more than happy to make arrangements to stay. So I went out, and just as soon as I was sitting down, they said, we'd like to talk to you. And I was like, oh, man, I didn't take long to tell me to just pack my car and head back to Illinois. And they offered me the job. I took the job. I stopped over on about 16th and Bell on a payphone, and called my parents and told them I got a job, called my wife, not my wife, but my girlfriend back then, and got the job. And here we sit, 30 you know, 31 years later in this wonderful state of Nebraska. But that's it in a nutshell there. But yeah,
Wow.
the whole coaching bug, and it could have went either way.
Where'd you get your degree at? Where'd you
I finished my degree at Northern Illinois University,
Okay,
where I went to Northern. I did the junior college route, did the sports stuff there. Then I figured out, you know, hey, you know, I need to get my degree, and went to Northern Illinois, got my degree, and then I came out here. But it really, when I first came to Bergen, I coached them all 3 levels of basketball. I did all 3 levels of football. I did the weight room. I did track. And they didn't have baseball at that time in that community, so I coached them all. And the irony of the whole thing is Joe Vocek was going to step down a year earlier, if I remember the story correctly, Coach Vo. If you're listening, please remind me. But if I remember correctly, you and I had some conversations that I would be a strong candidate, and Joe was thinking about retiring. But then he got the head coach of the Shrine Bowl, and Coach didn't want to make his last game the head coach of the Shrine Bowl. And but he told me that it was going to be available. And then Randy Eichmeyer came in suddenly and told us that he resigned after his last basketball game, and asked me if I'd be considering that job. And I just, at that time, kind of felt a little bit stronger potentially in the professional development side of it, of where I really wanted to go with my career. And, you know, if that conversation didn't happen with Joe, maybe, well, I wouldn't be probably sitting here with you. I'd be maybe doing some basketball and stuff like that. But enjoy the heck out of both of them, and have you know, grown ever since. 10 years at Fremont Bergen, 8 years as a head coach, 2 years as assistant. This would have been my 21st year. Obviously, the Omaha Public Schools did not have football this year. It would have been my 21st year, but couldn't sit back on my haunches either. I got to give a great shout out to my good friend Jeff Jamrog, who I know is a personal friend of yours. He allowed me some professional development this fall that high school coaches don't really get to do. You know, we can go out to spring practices and watch you guys, you know, prepare your teams, and you know, in the offseason, but it's not the same as preparing for a game week. You know, so what a wonderful job Jeff has done out there as the head coach at Midland. And I went out there on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and he let me come with him on Saturdays and just learned a bunch and rejuvenated me a little bit for however many more years the old man's got left in him.
So what did you pick up the difference in preparation between the two?
You know, not a lot. You know, obviously the one nice thing is I just focused on one side of the ball. You know, I as a head coach, you know, I'm involved in all 3 phases of the game. Right. And so with Jeff, you know, I was helping him. He had a need on the offensive side of the ball, and I tried to provide some, you know, just some insight, maybe would be the best way. With not being able to be there every day and do everything, I was cautiously not wanting to step on people's toes and stuff like that. But when they would ask, I knew my spot, you know. But just, you know, the weeks are, I shouldn't say longer, they're just different with coaching games on Saturdays. I mean, that was a big thing. But in terms of kids wanting structure, kids wanting discipline, kids taking their academics serious, you know, it was nice after practice when we were done. I didn't have to stick around and talk to kids about speeding out of the parking lot, being late to class. You know, those were over. I didn't have any emails that I got. Coach didn't have to handle any of that this year, so that was kind of fun. You know,
you don't have to worry about that stuff.
But Jeff and those do a great job. But it was refreshing for me to, you know, I didn't have to finalize the practice plans. Didn't have to turn in rosters. I didn't have to get the stats in and stuff like that. Not that I didn't miss that stuff, but you know, that was probably the biggest thing. You know, and then obviously the speed of the game, or the, you know, and things like that. That's a high level caliber of football.
Yeah, that GPAC playing Morningside.
Oh yeah,
it's toughest because they're all them and Northwestern always are at the top, and Midland's kind of working themselves up to that level. Jeff's done a good job.
Yes, he has. Yeah.
So I mean, that had to be, because you see Morningside, he gets a lot of D2 kids there. Because you coached him in high school too.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, but it's the same thing. You know, I mean, I know recruiting plays a big role into that. You know, and I wasn't that involved with that, other than just trying to help them with some high school coaches and getting some names for them and stuff like that. Hopefully, some of the other GPAC schools will continue to recruit our kids, but you know, and they will. But you know, seeing that part of it, and then, you know, just the one thing too is just the confidence piece. You know, we talked about this morning to our players when we were working them out this morning. Is just I was doing them through some speed ladder work, and you could tell when they weren't doing the ones that they weren't as comfortable or confident with, they would, I don't want to say give up, but they would get hesitant. I told them, no, you gotta embrace that. You know, don't be afraid of that, and just embrace it, and give it the same effort no matter what. You know, be comfortable being uncomfortable is what I told them this morning. you know, and so we're in that journey. It's the off season,
right?
And but teaching kids and stuff like that. So yeah, it was good.
So when you started at Bergen, were you on the offensive or defensive side of the ball, or did you do both when you first started at Bergen?
Yeah. So I would tell you, as a young coach, I was always more of an offensive guy. I know my D coordinator, if you listen.
When I've been out watching you, you'll fire that offense up.
Yeah. And I'm an O-line guy at heart, obviously. Look at coach, you know, I'm a big dude, you know, and stuff like that. And I had some great mentors, you know, with Milt Teneper and obviously Joe Vocek, you know, those are some, and Dan Young. I mean, I was fortunate enough to be in some great names of people that I was worked with, and you're not going to out scheme Joe Vocek. I mean, you give him a pencil and paper, he's going to scheme you up. And so, you know, just that would where my comfortability was offensively. But, you know, as I've grown as a coach, you know, I know the defense wins championships. We've been fortunate to win a few of those. We've had to get in some shootouts where you outscore some people, and that's not a lot of fun. But, you know, in the years that we got great defenses or our more competitive teams, not just at North, but I'm talking in my, you know, 31 years of doing it. And so I've gotten better, and you know, the hard part that I had to adjust after my first few years of coaching is that, you know, as a head coach, once you get your mind straight, in my mind, you really have to struggle of having good practices, because usually it's your offensive coaches are extremely happy because, you know, they got after the defense, or the defensive coaches are really frustrated because they got after the offense, you know what I'm saying, vice versa.
Oh, yeah.
And so as a head coach, you know, you got to try to manage that, to try to make sure that both of them are having a little success. I got to be able to deal with it, not get upset with them when they're mad and stuff. So, and you got to structure them so everybody's having some success, because you can't just have the defense come out and bury the offense all the time, or they're not going to have any confidence when they get into the games to be able to perform at a high level, and vice versa. You can't do that. So we've got some great coaches on my staff and great methods to do that. But I would say I was more offense, then I've been over to defense. Now I found out the more I stay out of the way on both sides of the ball, the higher level our team functions at. And I'm going to get a little bit, after being around Jeff, I'm going to take a bigger role on the special teams. You know, Jeff does a heck of a job with those special teams.
Yes,
and I'm going to do a much better job on that. And then, you know, for me, too much is managing the team, too, because I've learned over the years, too, that, you know, you can be really good on offense, really good on defense, but if your team is not cohesive and they don't truly get along, then you're going to have some issues when it gets into the crunch time. And so I think that that's probably where I've generated and trying to impact kids, of teaching them the lifelong skills of what they're going to need to be in order to be successful, and this football team to be successful, and then let the coaches coach.
Yeah. And when I first went to be head coach and was an offensive coordinator, that was my biggest adjustment, is adjusting to just being the head coach and trying to get the defense, because you always, when you're an offensive guy, you always want to go out and out scheme them, and beat them, and that was hard. When you're head coach, you want them all, because you want the kids to be cohesive.
I remember Coach Meisenberg told me that one time, and I appreciate it. He probably doesn't remember it and wouldn't, but he's just like, dang, does the offense always have to end on a good note? You know, and you know, he's right. We don't need to walk out. I mean, no, I told him it's just me. I need to end on a good note, right? And I'm
but,
you know, that's not. It was
when you're head coach, so you got to put that aside.
You do, you know, and I watch people, you know, work with that balance piece and stuff like that, and you know, and some of that's to me, a lot of that comes down to the makeup of the team and what I emphasize as a head coach, and so we're going to emphasize all three phases during the week the same amount, and you guys are going to have to get after it. You're going to tell me what you need. I'll give you more time on it, and we're going to. You know, I'll make obviously my observations and seeing what we need to work on, and go from there.
Gotcha. So when you first started as head coach, what did you implement just to get it all started and be like? Because I've watched you coach for a lot of years, Larry, and always been impressed with you and stuff and what you do, and remind me of myself a little bit when you get fired up on the sideline and say, we're going to put the ball right here, we're going to run this play, and you got to stop it. I remember one time in the summer stuff, so I always respected you and thought a lot. So what'd you do? Because I know you've grown a lot too, but what had you start yourself first when you started at Fremont?
I would just
say, you made a name for yourself there.
I appreciate that. You know, I would just say I'm passionate about what I do. I know what sports did for me and provided for me when I needed it the most in my life. And, you know, as I get towards maybe the last tier of my career, you know, I know what it did for me in my profession. And I know that it could do for the same thing for other people in whatever profession they choose to be in. And so, you know, I would tell you that I was very passionate about that. I still am. I'm competitive. You know, people, you know, might see me a little bit not as, some of that comes with maturity. Some of that gets a little bit older. Those are long, 5-day weeks.
Get a little
days,
wise.
I just, the whole piece, of just the managing the whole football team. I was an offensive-minded guy. We were spread my first year. We were going to chuck it all over the place and stuff like that. And, I've learned, a few things about, like I told you earlier about defense. I know that if you're going to win games, I don't care what level, you better be able to run the football, and you better be able to run it when they know you're going to run it too. And if you can't, then, if you're trying to out-scheme these and come up with this and that, in my opinion, it's just, you may win a game or two, but you're not gonna get.
It's hard to win championships that way.
And so, and I'm not
move mirrors so much.
And a lot of people give us a hard time that we don't, throw it enough and stuff like that. And we got to continue. I just want us to be. All my messages to our coaches is that I just want us to be more efficient when we throw the ball, and I trust their judgment because of. A, their knowledge of the game, and their B, commitment to the game, and then thirdly, I cannot argue their success of what we've been able to accomplish, especially the last 10 years in this very elite conference that we play in, or league that we play in, and so class we play in. So I just they know what they're doing. We all need to be held accountable, and I ain't afraid to do that. The coaches, players, whatever, myself. But we're going to be efficient throwing the ball, but I'm old school. You got to be able to stop the run, and you got to be able to run the ball, and you better be able to run the ball when they know you're going to run it, because if you can't, you're not going to take yourself from. You could be good, and you can win some games, and we did win some games when I was at Bergen. We had to chuck it all over the place, but it's not the way I want to make a living in terms of on Friday nights. It's not. I'm not saying that because of the weather and all this other stuff. I'm saying it's because. What I believe in is, and I think it's validated. If you just look at national championship teams or Super Bowl teams, and you watch Tampa Bay this year, they stopped the run. They made it one-dimensional.
And they ran the ball when they needed to.
And they ran the ball when they needed to.
Yeah. And so, Alabama's a perfect example. Yeah. They do what they want.
Yeah. So I'm not saying you can't be more creative about it and find different ways to do it.
But it's hard to move mirrors around all the time. Yeah, you know that.
No question. So.
But anyway, so now you take what made you decide to go to North?
It was just big picture for me I felt like I inherited, and I've told this to a few people, is that I inherited a program at Fremont Bergen that had a strong tradition, and I hope that I at least maintained it, or even maybe gave a little bit more to it.
You did. It's still very successful today.
Yeah, and they are, and they got great kids. But there was a burning desire for me to go somewhere where I could put my name on it. And in no disrespect towards any of the coaches, Herman Colvin's a great friend of mine, or some of the coaches that were there before Herman. They worked their butts off, very intelligent football coaches, great human beings. But I want to go somewhere where they've struggled to have success on a consistent basis against the good teams, and then embark on that. And that was just inner side of me. I wanted to go in there and do that, and I found that, there's a couple other reasons why. I got to know Mr. Haynes, as a person, and I knew Tom Lee was in my cadre when I got my master's degree in administration. Tom ended up leaving the first year I got there, but there was a lot of parts that I felt as I went out into the community when I first got there and got to know people, that there was a hunger there of wanting, their kids to perform at a very, very high level. And so that's evolved over the years in a variety of different ways, and we've had a lot of support. That's why I took the job at North. I wanted to go somewhere where, I had a 5-year plan, and I would do that 5-year plan probably different if I ever went somewhere else again, but I had it in my mind at the age of 32, right? I really knew a lot back then. But I was like, I wanted to execute this, and there was a few changes I would make, and I've offered that to some of my friends that have went other places. But then as I got passionate even about that, of some of the things that I saw, that, every place is unique, right? And you need to find what your strengths are and your weaknesses are, and then you need to build on your strengths, and then you need to learn how to manage your weaknesses better. And make them, and you're never probably going to make your weaknesses your strength, but you can make them so they're more manageable, know. And so we just really attacked that and moved that forward. And and now I remember I brought in Gene Sir. We won 5 district championships in a row, got beat in the semifinals, showed up to the weight room on the Monday after Christmas break. I had 7 coaches there and 6 kids. not a good formula to
Right.
get where we wanted to get to. So
Right.
I reevaluated that. We've implemented some things after that, our principal, I went to Southeast High School in Bradenton, Florida, and I went to Skyline. I never went to Skyline, but I talked to the head football coach at Skyline, 2 schools that are very similar makeup of ours, and I put a plan together of what we could. I brought it back to the administrative team. They got it approved. Omaha Public Schools moved forward on it. Every school can have it now, which is great. But it was a great plan for us and to move this thing forward. And then all of a sudden we implement that, and 2 years later, my son's senior year, we're in the state championship. So, yes, I'm not acting like I was that smart, but, with a lot of people's help and support, we put in a good plan. We're in the state championship. Next thing you know, we're playing in 5 out of the last 7, and we won 3 of them. So it isn't about me winning, but we brought Gene in and said, look, what do we got to do to get over the hump to be one of those elite programs?
He's a good man. He's a very intelligent.
Brought
guy.
him in, hired him, paid him, to do that, and obviously he's a great football coach, and he left it on the. He was just like, one of the advices that he gave me, Billy, was he just said, back when I was at Papillion,
because he had to start there. They were bad back then too.
And he told me, he said, we went, I think it was Creighton Prep or Millard North, one of the two. He said they were winning all the championships, so we built our program around what we had to do to beat them.
Yeah.
And so. Anyway, that's just a short synopsis of it all, but I was passionate about it. I'm not afraid to, rattle some feathers and stuff like that, you got to even a shout out to your brother. We got a very aggressive AD who came in, Bob did, and, into the Omaha Public Schools. He got junior high football going on in the Omaha Public Schools, which they didn't have, which obviously has helped. He got those kids in equipment. He got them practicing. He brought in clinics. He had us high school coaches put some clinics on for the the middle school coaches and got that going. And then he got in our butts. I remember one time I was standing there scouting a football game, and I'll never forget this. I was singing on the way here. He told me, he said, and I hope your brother listens to it. He said, you guys don't blitz very much, I noticed, Coach. And I was like, I walked away from that. Now, a guy could have got offended, but I was like, number one, he watches with an efficient eye. Right. And number two, I think he might have been telling me I need to blitz a little bit more.
He probably was. That's his way of telling you.
I went back to my coordinators, or my D coordinator, and I said, hey, we might need to bring some heat a little bit. Once, whether he was right or he was wrong, he made me think. He wasn't afraid to say something. And there was probably some truth in it, but I guarantee you he'll get a kick out of that, because it was like, next thing you know, we're playing for a state championship, and then won back to back, and then had a year off and got back again, got our butts. I said, we've been in 5 of them. We lost a close one, we won a close one. We kind of got after a team. Another team got after us, and then we won another one. So it's been a heck of a run, but you don't do that with a lot of other people, providing you that support.
No, North's totally. When we grew up, North was always fighting, like you said. Yeah. And then what you did there is incredible. So, now they're one of the top year programs in the state year in and year out, with the other ones. So, you got to, I think this year, there's no question you'd have been in the top 5 this year again, too, with West Side and Bellevue West. And Burke would have probably been there, too.
Oh, yeah. Burke is going to have a darn good football team. And, but it's just like anything else, like I've told our players is, we've been handling a little bit of adversity. We can't. We just got to embrace it, and we got to attack it, and we got to, go after it. And I've been impressed with our kids so far this second semester of, since we've been back at full time 2 weeks before spring break, and now we're into the 4th quarter. Well, our kids are doing a very good job. They really are.
How do they adapt to all this? Missing being home all the time and not going to school.
Yeah, it's just there's no perfect formula to this thing, right? I think we've all seen a bunch of different ways to handle it. And I don't want to say I got to, it's just, I said it, for me, I've talked out of both sides of my mouth on it, even just on a personal note at times too. It's a tough deal, but I've always just tried to stay positive with the kids. One of the things that I really try to do is provide opportunities for our kids that want to go on to college and play football to help make their college, if they choose to go on to college, much more affordable for them. That's a passion of mine. Right. I love doing that.
Yes, you do. You do a good job with that. I've dealt with you.
Yeah, and I don't mess around with these college coaches because they're all hiding money. No, I'm kidding. But
come on, Billy, chuck it in.
I'm kidding, but I know one thing: that education is the equalizer, right?
Right.
The more educated we get, the better. And so. I work hard and passionately if our kids want to go on to college, and if they want to go on to some trade schools, and we got some kids applying for scholarships, get some Buffett scholarships. We got kids that go into the service and stuff like that, and we just want them to further it on. just very, very, very passionate about that.
That's awesome. So now, when did you figure that it was starting to really change at North? Because when you first there, I used to come down and visit you down there in your old locker room, and you talk about you're trying to get there, and we talked about some different things. When did you first start really getting the idea that this thing was going to turn?
Well, I've always felt there was the hunger there from the first year I got there. That senior class that I came to North in 2000, that was a very talented class. I still remember that. I got indoctrinated because I tell some of these young OPS coaches, because they see some of the success that we had the first, or the last 10 years, but the first 10, we went 1-8, we went 2-7, and then we got over the hump. But that team that I had that went 1-8 that first year, out of the 8 losses, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 in the state of Nebraska. We played that year. We played a tough schedule, extremely tough, and so. But those kids were talented. They were hungry, but we had to get them in the weight room. We had to build that camaraderie piece. We needed to be around each other more in the summer. And then, like I said, I don't remember exactly what year it was, but it was after about year 8 or 9. We got into, we had Niles and those guys come through. We were starting to get some of the top end talent. He
was a heck of an athlete.
Yeah, we started getting some of the top end talent to come to us, to trust us of what we were doing, which was big, in the community. Because there was other schools in our district that have been perceived as the places to send them there, and then that got us over the hump of getting some more talented kids. Once again, I needed to be out in the community,
That's the piece I think. Tell us about that. That's something you've done very well. I've always been impressed with what you do. Tell me about that.
It's just like anything else, if you want people to have, the trust in you, because they don't know. It's not like growing up in a small town where my mom knew the football coach and the basketball coach, and for that matter, even the kids. I played with all my buddies that I played with in the church, churchyard and stuff like that, where these kids are coming from, different middle schools, and stuff like that, where they really don't know each other and stuff. And so that's been the most enjoyable piece for me is being there long enough now that I get to see the return on my investment in the kids when they're younger. You got the Terrell McKinney's that wrestled, and his Uncle Al played for us. And now he's right here in the state leadership, in the state of Nebraska, just there's several success stories. I hate to just call Terrell, but it just makes us proud that we're all taking care of our community and giving back. And because sometimes I think we see that people will leave, and go different places, but we've rolled up our sleeves and just stayed, and everybody's seen our commitment level, and so but yeah, just getting out of the community, doing youth camps, going and checking on kids, just being there for them, it's things like that. I think it's just like being in a small town for me at times, because they know if they need to call me, they're going to call me, and they know I'll come over to the house. We need to sit down and have a talk down, we can do that, and so it's been good. It really has.
I think because before you started there, Central was the place where they went. Down there. I mean, because that's I can't remember.
And those guys do a good job.
McMiniman did a good job, and then
they did.
And then I think when you got in there, it took time, but I saw those kids going to Omaha North.
Yeah, and you can't be you got to sell what you got, and then and I think the other thing that validated Coach too is all 3 of my boys went to North. I mean, that's we can sit here and say this, and the community saw, okay, we got a football coach here, okay, his kids are getting older, where are they going to go to school? Well, my boys went to North, and they got a darn good education, and they're doing just great. 2 of them already graduated from college. Yeah. And the 3rd one's in there right now, and so I think that was like, okay, coaches,
together,
the whole family part of it, and so, and it's been a great experience for me, and we got a lot of work to do, to get this next year's football team ready to go, but it's something that I know that, that's the other piece I don't want to not mention either. I've been blessed with a lot of great coaches around me too. If you really look at the core of my staff, a lot of them have been with me for a long time.
You've had some good coaches there.
So hopefully that means, fellas, if you ever listen to this, that I took pretty good care of you and you didn't want to go somewhere else. But they've been sought after for some head coaching jobs and stuff like that. And I've often said that hopefully if I'm doing my job right, that I'm not losing coaches for lateral moves. That's the way I've looked at it. If they can want to go be a head coach or a coordinator or something like that, I understand that completely do. But if I'm taking good enough care of them, giving them enough autonomy in my football program, then I'm doing my job right. That's the way I look at it.
So, and as you look at your history, okay. I mean, it's been very, very well, Coach. You've done an awesome job. You're one of the most respected. I mean, I was down in Lincoln when we were doing camps together. And I had the pretty boys, and you had the offensive linemen. You had them going, man. You had them in the chutes. Anyway, but I've always respected the heck out of you. What advice would you give a young coach starting out? Because you've done it, you've had success, and and you just did it on a whim. You drove all the way out here, so you look at all these coaches starting out, trying to make them game and make a go. What would you recommend? What is your thoughts?
I can't completely use the analogy that I said to my son, but it was something to the effect of, you got 2 ears, use them wisely. You got 2 eyes, right? Use them wisely. You only got one of these, close it. Just listen and see what's going on. There's a good reason why the good Lord gave you 2 eyes and 2 ears and only 1 mouth.
Right.
Just listen.
That's a good point.
Good point. And that's what I told him. Just be absorbent as you possibly can. I'm proud of Zach, obviously. Whatever he's going into college, I'm proud of Grant too. But in this profession too. I feel, even myself included. I thought I was ready to be a head coach at the age of 24. No. I was fortunate enough that some people saw some beauty into me or whatever, and some foresight into me of what I would become. But I needed to listen more. I needed it. But Mark Wortman will even tell you too. In 1992, my first year as a head coach, I got in the car, met Mark Wortman over in the. He was doing a summer camp, his first year, right there, watching his defense. Yeah, I drove right over to Elkhorn. There was no, you had to go through Valley back then, brother. And
none of this was there.
No,
none of this.
And Mark still laughs about that. It was my first year being a head coach. I drove down and talked to Gene Sir. He remembers that. Second year. It was my 3rd year at North. It's my 4th year at Fremont Bergen. My 2nd year as a head coach. I drove down to Papillion and met with Gene. So you can't be afraid, and you got to go listen, and you got to get around people and aspire. You don't have to be somebody different. Be yourself. Kids will pick up on that. If you're fake, you're fake. I don't care probably what business you're in. You got to be yourself.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
You can't be somebody that you're not. And the kids will pick up on it. If you're not a screamer and a yeller, don't think that you got to come in and be a screamer and a yeller.
Correct.
Even me. I got my mother's Italian blood in me. I'm one that I'll let things slide and slide and slide, and I blow up. And then I'm done. And then I'm back to slide, where some people are different. So don't expect, that would be my biggest advice is just, be patient. You don't need to know all the answers right away. I also say kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. If you're going to be one of these guys that's just going to be very offset with your kids, I don't want to say that it's important to me. I want my kids to know that, if they're upset with me, it's because of my passion of wanting them to be good. It's not just like I'm mad at you and I'm done with you.
Right.
It's, no, this is, and that's always been my way is that, I still care about you even when I chew your butt, and so, but that would be my advice to them is that, just be patient. You don't have to have all the answers right away at the beginning. Okay. And then just, like I said, listen and be open-minded and, but have your, core value. I told this when I came from Fremont Bergen to Omaha North. I don't want to say it's just different, but the other advice I would tell you, if you're going to lose football games, lose them the way that you want to lose them, because at the end of the day, the program better be an example of you. And so hopefully that makes sense.
Yes.
And I can give you examples on that, but it's just, at the end of the day, you're going to lay your head, if you've got competitiveness to be a head coach, you're going to lay your head on the pillow at night. And I'm not saying this arrogantly, it's just the fact of the matter is that when you lose, when Omaha North loses a football game, it's Larry Martin lost the football game. Now, I got coaches that care an extremely amount about the program, don't get me wrong, but you better hang your head on the, down when you lose football games to the way that you want to lose them. Because I remember I wanted to switch our defense when I got the head job at Bergen. Had a great head coach, or not a head coach, but D coordinator, been there for a while. I wanted to change up what we were doing and stuff, and when we get beat and we weren't doing it right defensively, it bothered me. And then it hurt my relationship with him. It was nothing personal. Same thing when I got to whatever. It just lose games the way that you want to lose them. Now, hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
Because a lot of people want to give you a lot of advice, and I'm not saying it's all bad. Yeah. Take it in, but I just know that how I'm wired is if I'm going to get up on Saturday morning, I got to read the paper, and we lost a football game, and we didn't do something the way that I wanted it to be done. Yeah. That's not going to be a great feeling for me.
Yeah. Mark retiring this year, because I know Mark. He coached Bob when we were in college.
Yeah.
That's how long we've known Mark.
Yeah, Bob.
He was outside linebacker coach for Bob, and Noel Martin was the head coach.
Is that right?
Not the head coach, defensive coordinator. Then he was the head coach.
Yeah, because when I first moved into Brad, the other guy I got to know was the Bear from Roncalli, and he used to tell me Mark Wortman and Bear used to always tell me with his scratchy voice that I'm starting to get now the older I get. He said, "You always tell Mark Wortman, Coach, if you're listening, my bad." He said, "I just, because I think they both played together at Northern Colorado.
Yes.
And he said they used to do the board drill. So that's all I'm going to say, Coach. You could fill in the answers when you answer an as. But Bear always said, you just ask Coach Wortman how that board drill went with him when he had to go against me.
I could see the Bear doing that. Yeah, I could see the Bear doing that.
Yeah.
Well, as we finish, I used to pro wrestle. I know you.
You
did.
bet.
We finish up with the old hush, hush, hush here.
Okay.
And that's put your hand like this, and what that made, I wanted food or money, and I should chase people around the crowd and all that stuff and do that stuff. So, are you ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3. Hush, 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 hush. Thank you. We'll see you all next week. Awesome, Coach.
All right.